All right. Hello, hello. Yes, you're on. Good. All right. Hello, everyone, or whoever's here. I think we're overlapping the Laravel live stream just a little bit, so apologies for that. But I think they're kind of just chatting at this point. So I mention it because on the Laravel live stream they are updating, um, they're migrating Laravel News, as you can see in the background here, to Laravel Cloud. And this is kind of nice. It actually goes pretty nice with the progression of what I'm hoping to do here, which is to start caching Laravel News as like the first of a set of case studies for Fast Laravel. So Fast Laravel, I know if you guys have been watching the stream, it's a recent video course I launched, basically making your Laravel app fast with page caching. In the course, I demo strategies for doing that with Cloudflare, but you can really do it with any CDN. The strategies in there are universal. I mean, I choose Cloudflare because their free plan covers everything, but you can apply those strategies on anything, AWS, whatever. I chose Cloudflare again because I think it's kind of the popular one. I know Laravel Cloud has some pre-built services and integrations with Cloudflare already. So again, just kind of like as a community, I won't necessarily use the word partner, but just something that's in the Laravel community, something I think people are familiar with. But what's funny, kind of the origin story here is what's funny. I announced the course on Reddit after the new year, and someone, of course, on Reddit like pointed out, oh, well, if you go to Laravel News and we refresh the page for JMac here, we can see that it's hosted with Cloudflare. If we scroll down here, we'll see Cloudflare, server Cloudflare. But notice that the CF cache status is dynamic, which basically means it's not so far as a miss, but it means it's being bypassed in the cache. And even from the cache control headers, we can see here that it's got no cache, no store, private. Everything here is preventing it from being cached on any kind of proxy, any kind of CDN, and also the browser. The browser, because of private and max age of 0, has to revalidate every request. So it's always going to pull it down from the origin server. So in the course, I talk about this because basically this means that every time you want to request this, it's going to go all the way out across the internet, find wherever the Laravel News Cloud, Laravel Cloud server is for Laravel News, or wherever it's hosted, hit that box, process PHP, process the request, run the Laravel application, hit the database, do all the things, right? And so because of that, this is going to be slow. Not that 293 milliseconds is slow from a traditional perspective, but just as a comparison, of course, on Laravel shift, there it is. If we do the same thing, if I inspect the network traffic, go to the network tab, hit refresh, we'll see here, well, let's hit the page properly instead of the refresh in the network tab. So we see here, well, that's a disk cache. That's not totally fair. We see here the 304 is the point. This means it returns as a cache hit from Cloudflare. But notice that milliseconds there, 24 milliseconds. Of course, the next request, I'm actually caching the page with the browser, 14 milliseconds. I've seen as low as 1 here on where I'm not streaming and running the CPU in other ways on the machine. So, of course, if it loads directly from the browser, it's going to be as fast as possibly you could ever get. But that's kind of the point here, right? So even though 300 milliseconds isn't necessarily long, I'm a fraction of that by using caching, even when it's sending requests to Cloudflare's edge network. In this case, we can see it's sending it to Atlanta, ATL. It's a hit, and it's being returned immediately. And notice that my max age is 1 day in public, which means that any proxy across the internet can cache it, any proxy cache can cache it, meaning Cloudflare in this case, and to the browser can. So that's why on the subsequent request, we see here that it came from the disk cache, meaning that it loaded directly from the browser's cache from my local machine. Now, again, there's, some implications here, which we're going to talk about. But the point is that Laravel News, with its crazy amount of traffic, I think he said they get like 250,000 requests a day, maybe more than that. I could be wrong. I think it might be more than that. I looked at some of the 7-day stuff, and it was in the millions. So they're getting a pretty fair amount of requests, and they're getting some what we call like kind of like a stampeding herd effect, where you know, if you have a popular article, you're going to get a run on that article if it gets shared and reshared, you know, on Reddit, Hacker News, whatever. So because of that, you know, you can cache this page, right? Instead of horizontally scaling out, of course, you could do that on Laravel Cloud, but you're going to pay the money for it. Or we can use free services of Cloudflare. Again, Laravel News is already hosted with, or already using Cloudflare as a service provider. We can see that right here. So why not take advantage of this page caching? So again, that's kind of the big backstory here. So a little bit of a rundown of like the motivation, the backstory of what we're going to do here. So the case study here, long story short, is to cache the landing page. So this page, laravelnews.com, and then the article detail page. So any of the articles should be cached as well. And the reason I'm choosing those two is because, again, they're the most requested traffic. So the landing page and a detailed article page account for like 90% of the traffic to the website. So, you know, we talked about 250,000 requests. Well, 240,000 of those are to these types of pages. So basically, we can reduce the server load down to 10% effectively of what it is currently by caching these pages. So we can think about what that means as far as, like, again, the requirements of the server itself, or the scaling that's needed, and ultimately the bill, right? And again, all with free services with Cloudflare. So what I want to do today is two things. One, I want to run, I made this new shift actually. It's a free shift. It's this Fast Laravel shift. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to automatically configure your project to use some of the strategies that are inside of the video course. So I was applying these to multiple of my own sites, and I got tired of like copy pasting code, copy pasting files, and kind of resetting everything up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run this against the Laravel News repository. Eric's given me access over here, and then I want to review kind of the stack and kind of start thinking about what other strategies we can apply to the project to make sure that these are indeed cacheable. Now, I've already talked to Eric, and I do believe that they are cacheable, but we need to kind of get into the code and see kind of how it looks and what we might need to adjust. And Fast Laravel is all about like these surgical refactors, right? I don't want to completely rebuild the site, right? I want to try to find, again, the current setup for the site. That's kind of the whole point. If we go back and kind of look at Fast Laravel, like its pitch is like your Laravel app, but fast, right? Like you're not rebuilding the whole thing. We're not rewriting like the tech stack. We're not switching out, you know, again, a completely different technology. You're not making the thing like a spa where like it wasn't before. Like none of that's required. We're just doing some surgical refactors to kind of maybe move some things around. So we'll see what those are for Laravel News. Again, I have some ideas, but I haven't gotten that far down in there. So I ran this last night, but we'll just run it again. So let's get in here. Let's run this for Laravel News. Kaboom. Yeah, I think I got this. I think I cut this separate branch. I should probably recut this branch. Let's do that. I cut this yesterday, but again, I know they were doing some Cloudflare migrations today, so let's do a git clone. They may have changed some things in master, I guess is my point. So, can everybody hear me okay? I think yeah, okay. My battery is really low on my like little boom mic there, so cd Laravel. I got like 1 million Laravel projects. There we go, Laravel News. All right, git fetch, git checkout fast Laravel, git rebase main. Everything's up to date. Okay. I don't think they've merged anything yet. So again, I can rebase later if I need to. So we got that. We don't need this up anymore. We're gonna go off that. Let's review. Let's run this. All right, so this shouldn't take too long. It's a pretty straightforward shift. again, mostly just copying files, reconfiguring things in your application bootstrap file. There you go. Took, what is that, 30 seconds there? All right, let's see what it did. I know what it did, but let me walk you through what it did. So there's not a lot of changes here. Well, let's start with I like to start with the commits. So basically, it creates a custom cache control middleware. So it gives you a couple middleware that it can use. It registers this new static middleware group. That's kind of the big thing. And again, all of this stuff, the course is a paid course, but all of this stuff that I'm kind of talking about is broadly covered actually in a Laravel like news article. So some of the main strategies in the course are here. It's kind of only when I realized I'm giving Eric like an article. I was giving him an article like every 2 weeks, and it was just like, okay, there's enough to make a course here. Like I could do a year-long worth of articles, once a month, or I can make a course. So I kind of just decided to start turning it into a course from there. But a lot of the things that we're going to cover here, if you want some more backstory, like here's this separate middleware group. Here's like the blocking requests from this package here. So basically it creates the middleware. It does that static middleware group, which I talk about in that Laravel news article. It installs JT's package here that we kind of worked on together for some of that WAF rule generation. Again, another article over there, and then some simple cleanup. So let's kind of take a peek at what it did here. So basically it gives 2 sets of middleware. One's kind of this force cache, which basically forces the cache headers. There's a reason out of the box, as we saw, like Laravel's not really set up for page caching, and it's not meant to be set up for page caching. It's meant to be a web application framework where like you can just get in and do all sorts of features out of the box, like login and authentication. And because of that, sessions are part of the site. But if we go look, again, I talked about this with Eric, but if we go look at the site, there's nothing here. He said your account. Once you log in, you go to a dashboard. It never changes the public facing website. You don't get an avatar here or anything like that. There's no real need for these pages to really carry session information. They're just full page reloads. There's nothing reactive or front-endy about them. Once you log in here, you go to a backend that's kind of, I think he said a majority of that is kind of built out with Filament. So, and again, it doesn't affect your front end. Like your account does not turn into an avatar. So because of that, you really don't need any session stuff like for the landing page, right? There's nothing on this landing page that's like session based. It's just a whole big, huge list of articles and sponsors and these links. And this stuff doesn't change unless the design of the site changes, which if it does, you can bust the cache. But that's not going to be very common. Worst case scenario, someone gets, an outdated page for a couple hours. That's probably not the end of the world from Eric's perspective, right? What might be the end of the world is like if an article has like a really nasty typo in it and it needs to push an update. But if you think about it, it's really no different than if someone, and even when I'm on this page right now, forget about caching, even when I'm on this page right now, unless I, as the user, refresh this page, I see this page as a snapshot in time as it stands until I do something. I could leave this tab up on my browser for a year and I would always see this, right? I would always see this old version of the site. So, people talk about, oh, cache invalidation and oh, my users are going to see like stale stuff. Well, not really. I mean, it already requires an action on the user's, the user has to take an action to get fresh content anyway. So it's more about picking a TTL you can live with, right? If Eric can live with an article being cached for an hour and someone potentially sees a stale version, like again, that could dramatically affect or reduce his server costs. So like, I think, picking the TTL is important, but cache invalidation isn't necessarily hard or like a bad thing. Sure, you need to think about it, but it shouldn't like, a lot of people jump to that and say, oh, if I cache a page, like, they're going to see old stuff all the time. Not really. I mean, it doesn't really change the user experience, to be quite honest, because again, as the state of the web is, I have to perform an action to get fresh content anyway, once this page is loaded. I mean, unless you've got auto polling in the background and, you know, again, any kind of reactivity, then fine. But again, there's no reactivity built on this page. This page does not auto refresh when a new article is published, so to speak. So again, for those reasons, I think there's a lot of opportunity to cache stuff here. So we've got these two middleware. The default one basically just caches for a day. Again, we can adjust this TTL, you know, once we talk to Eric, kind of like what he's comfortable with. But this is kind of taken actually from an article on Laravel News, which is kind of inspired this article by Andy Hinkle. But again, out of the box, this doesn't work. What you need next is this. You need this separate static middleware group. And what this is kind of effectively the same as the API middleware group, meaning that it doesn't have any of like the stateful stuff that gets loaded up by Laravel, like no sessions, no cookies, none of the things that make a web request stateful, right? The web by default is stateless unless you implore some of these technologies, right? So basically we put our set cache control there, meaning anything under the static middleware group, any routes registered under there will automatically be cached. And then substitute bindings, this is just a default for substituting bindings inside your routes, specifically like, you know, implicit model binding, for example. So that's all we need. And then we have this, you know, static routes file where we register stuff. So this gives us enough to start working with. I think what we want to do now is kind of get into the code, right? So this configures the application without me having to like watch the videos and, you know, retype stuff or download files or whatever. So it's just kind of a quick way that if you do get into the course and you do want to set up your site, it kind of gives you all the things that you'll kind of probably want to use, obviously, if you're following, you know, the Fast Laravel strategies. So let's get fetch and get that new branch, get checkout shift. You know what? This looks good, actually. Let's just merge this. This is going to go into Fast Laravel anyway. So let's confirm that. We'll delete that branch, keep it clean out there. Okay, I don't think we need anything else from that. So let's just do a git pull here. We don't need that branch. Let's pull this down. Let's get the working directory. Let's bring up PHP Storm. I don't have any of this configured. Let me turn on one of my lights. I feel like it's really dark. There we go. All right, and then next, what do we have here? All right, we're still good. Go just a little bit longer. Let's make a new project. Yeah, all I want to do today is just kind of like see how this other stuff's registered. So we've already got the application configured. I don't want to do like any other refactors today necessarily. There we go. Laravel News. Boop. Create. All right, let's bring this across. I don't need to like run this or anything locally. Right now we're just kind of like mining the application and kind of understanding what it is. So what I want to look at, I think, where we want to start probably is, let's go look at how the landing page and the article pages are registered. Is there some kind of wildcard? Is it a fallback route? There's some implications there again. So let's start getting into like the implications of like what we need to do to make those pages cacheable, right? We've got the app configured for page caching, but we haven't cached anything yet. We need to move routes into the static routes and then make sure they can actually be cached. You don't want to cache something that's going to have user content, because whoever hits that first is now going to have their content displayed for the whole world. Again, the page is no longer dynamic, right? It's going to just snapshot it, save it on Cloudflare, push it to the edge, and that's what people are going to get for your TTL. So again, that's okay for these pages, but we need to kind of make sure how they're built, that they don't do anything with the session that we need to be mindful of. So let's get into the routes. Let's get in. So we got this new static, right? And then next we kind of want to figure out, ooh, Livewire. Okay, okay. He mentioned they were Livewire. I didn't realize all the pages were Livewire. Okay, so we got this homepage trending. Homepage trending is, okay. Homepage trending is a Livewire component. Okay, that's gonna be, so ideally we want to pull over home page plus article detail page. Article page, I think, is fine. Okay. Homepage trending's Livewire. Okay, this is Livewire. Interesting. Now again, we know that nothing about this is reactive per se. Let's do this. JS. Okay, this page has been running in the background for a bit. Now notice, to the point about it not being, or sorry, XHR is what we want. Notice in the XHR, there's no Livewire. Like a Livewire update, right? Like if there was reactivity going on here, you would see like some Livewire API calls to refresh the component. But there's not, right? And in fact, if we go back and look at homepage trending, there's not even any like, there's some computed properties, but there's not any, there's no mount, there's no reactive like data in here. There's no props, right? So I don't think it, again, I don't think it's using Livewire in the extent that it quote unquote needs Livewire. And again, I talked with Eric about this. He kind of just, I think the site was built consistently and uniformly where like things were Livewire, but does it need Livewire? Is there an action on this page? You know, he kind of said there's no actions on this page that like, the only thing here is like this email bit. But again, this is just a form it's going to submit to an endpoint. It's not like you hit this and then this refreshes in real time on this page, right? It's not a component on this page per se that gets swapped out. So I don't think it needs Livewire. Here's the challenge with Livewire. Livewire is great. I use Livewire too, but the way it's built relies upon the session underneath. So the snapshots, the payloads, the checksums, all the stuff that's happening, it utilizes the session underneath. So even if you're not authenticated, even if none of that happens, the point is Livewire out of the box, when it loads this and loads this page, it is utilizing the session. If we take away the session, Livewire is not going to work. But again, because this isn't doing anything where it even makes any calls, you know, with the payload or the snapshot or check, it's not doing any of that. Really, you kind of just have a blade component. You're not really using a Livewire component. You really just have a blade component with some caching. I mean, this is just a raw, I mean, if we look at all these computed properties, all they really are is about caching. What's this visit? So there's visit. So does visit get called somewhere? Let's go check this out. Home. So there's a visit method. So homepage trending. Where's visit? Okay, we got a wire visit. What is this? So what is this section? Links when podcasts. Links when podcast. Wire visit link. What is this doing? It's just redirecting. If there was some tracking in here, you know, if they were trying to figure out like, oh, okay, you know, if there was some click tracking, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of click. This is just a flat out redirect. Why isn't this just a URL? I'll have to ask. Yeah, I mean, they already have the link URL there. It's interesting. Is this even on the page? What is this section? View all links. Links. Where are the links? Oh, I guess they're the community links. Is that right? I assume those are probably the community links. Is that what it says? Yeah. Community links. Why are these community links a visit call? Again, I don't, just based on what this does, I don't know why. I'll have to ask if there's there could be some underlying event thing going on there. I don't know. I don't think so, but like, we'll explore it. I'm not seeing anything about this page that leads me to believe this couldn't just be a Blade component. So let's go look at the article page. Is there like an article page? Article show. Article show. So we've got all this stuff. So this does have a mount of the article. Now I'm assuming this is route model binding. Let's go find article show. Okay, route get. Okay, so basically there's a fallback route. Basically there's a fallback route here of article slug. And that goes to article show, which goes to article details, exactly what we want. Okay. And then article show says article load, abort unless it's published, or you're able to preview it. Okay, fine. And then everything else is just a big render here. So render article show with layout, all the stuff. So again, this is just rendering a view. What is the only public thing in, again, the only public thing in here is this show releases newsletter. Now is this used, and it's only used in article show. It's not used anywhere else. This string is nowhere else in the code base. So I mean, this already is private, effectively. So this is just a simple controller here, really. Again, there's nothing, there's not even any action methods in here. This is just render and a construct, effectively. This could just be called show with this up here. I mean, there you go. It's a controller now. I think, yeah. I think both these pages are absolutely cacheable. You just have to not use Livewire. They're not even using Livewire anyway. Like, again, not in the intention of what Livewire is supposed to be used for. The only oddity is that visit. That's the only oddity. Let's just click one of these visits. We got everything. Let me make preserve log. All right, let's go back. Oops, that was Laravel shift. Let's click this. All right, it's gonna go to YouTube. We know that.
Ready to see AI create a multiplayer.
Hey, Christoph. All right, so let's go back. So we do have an XHR. I was trying to see if there was like a visit. Okay, we did get a Livewire update. I assume here is where we call visit. What's the payload? Yeah, there you go. Visit params, and it returns a redirect. So this is the only Livewire update. What's this one? Oh, that's YouTube. Okay, so now we're in YouTube. So that's not us. This is the only Livewire thing on Laravel News. I think we can say domain laravelnews.com. Yeah, let's limit it. So again, that's it. So when we were on Laravel News, everything XHR here was really mostly some backend stuff from Cloudflare. What is this? We should just be on XHR. Oh, does it no longer limit it? Anyway, the only Livewire call update was the visit. And looking at visit, the only thing it did was redirect. So I'm going to ask Eric about that. But the point is, I don't know why it's a prevented click to visit. Maybe there used to be click tracking, but there clearly doesn't seem to be anymore. So yeah, while these are built in Livewire currently, I don't think they need to be. I think they could be swapped to an invocable controller, pull all the same methods over, and yeah, just load the view Because again, it never reacts in any kind of way. Like, it's never making any Livewire update calls. It's never getting refreshed in any kind of way through Livewire. So if we do that, then we're done. Then we just pull these two things over. You just take this, and you take this. We'll have to ask about this homepage new. Is this, let's see, is it out there? Yeah, we'll have to ask about the homepage new, but we can pull that over too. I don't see anything. I don't see anything, any reason not to. I wonder about this, like this little flash message. I wonder like how often that gets updated, or how critical is that? Is this little toast up here like, does that change like per request, right? So these are the things you have to think about. If you're going to make this page cacheable, remember it's going to be snapshotted up to your TTL potentially, potentially longer, right? But at least up to your TTL. So if you say, hey, this homepage, cache it for an hour, while it might not seem very long, it's long enough to actually reduce traffic to the server, therefore reducing costs, and also again improving the speed of this landing page, which is all of which are good things, right? But a couple questions here we'll have to ask. We need to ask about visit. We need to ask about this toast notification at the top. How often do these things change? Articles change, but again, you could invalidate the cache. You can invalidate the cache when an article's published. So like that's kind of the other part of this, right? We can control when the page should get flopped out. So I think the point here is instead we should make what we could do is make like an article detail invocable controller, or even just even just a resourceful controller with only show. And then same thing with the homepage trending. Just instead of livewire components, they're just they don't even I don't like putting closures in routes. Maybe I'm just kind of old school, but like I'd rather have an invocable controller than the stuff in the routes. So let's do PHP artisan make controller dash I, and we'll do home page trending. Oh, helps when you run Composer install. I heard some stuff in the chat, so let's see here. What's this? Oh yeah, Composer update. Sorry. All right, let's let that run. I don't know if he has any private packages. We'll see. I may not have access to those. What's in here? It might be for wire click spa feel. What's the wire click feel? Oh, Laravel News is here. Eric's here. Eric, I don't know if you're still here. How long ago was this? I don't have timestamps on the thing. Sorry if you're already gone. But if you are still here, Laravel News, what we noticed was that there was one quote unquote, wire click reactive kind of livewire thing on the homepage, and that's these links actually call visit underneath, which just returns a redirect. I would assume maybe in the past that was for click tracking, but like to me it doesn't seem like that's necessary. I can view the source again so you can kind of see. All right, can we hear me again? Yeah, sorry, boom mic died. Sorry for the audio change. Hopefully you can hear me again. Yeah, on the visit thing though, Yeah, I figured it was some kind of click tracking, but if we go look at visit, there's no like, I don't see like a, I don't see like a track link, increment kind of thing here. Like, I don't see, all I see is this redirect. So to me, this is just a long way around to redirect them to YouTube. But even if you did have click tracking, I mean, we could do it like a traditional way. We could have that first go to an endpoint, which then redirects them, and you could do your tracking there. Again, this doesn't have to be Livewire still, regardless. So it would still be a pretty minimal refactor to make a new endpoint to click track. I mean, even Twitter still does it that way. They still have their link co stuff anytime you paste a link. So yeah, since this isn't in here, I don't know how you're doing that, but I'm not looking through. I mean, maybe you've got some kind of event callback here. I don't know. So anyway, I think we're still good to move that over. So okay, let's do one more thing here. Oh crap. Okay. All right, we got some other issues here. So let's pause here. Let me analyze the code a bit more. We're going to do a part 2 where we actually move these things over. But I think by just taking what's in the Livewire component and moving it to an invocable controller, like, this is all cacheable. So that's the bottom line. I'll talk with Eric to make sure we understand this link and this toast notification. I'll get the project properly installed. We'll investigate the visit thing a bit more off stream. But I think these two are definitely cacheable. It's an interesting case where like it's a little deeper of a refactor than I think most apps would come across. But I think that was more reflective of just kind of this initial choice to use Livewire everywhere, even if it wasn't quote unquote needed. Like, yeah, again, there's nothing about these 2 pages where they need to be Livewire from what I can tell. Well, the closest thing is maybe this visit, but without any kind of click tracking, you're just kind of making 2 web requests to redirect them to YouTube or wherever the link goes. So anyway, yeah, I think you could just redirect them directly to link, and that probably does the click tracking, right? I think that's, looking at this more closely now, I think that's what happens. So all right, let me answer the rest of the questions on the chat, and we'll wrap it up for the day. And next week, we'll get a little deeper into the refactor. Hi to system. Why not use Laravel response cache from Spatie? It does 2 different things. So the whole point, the speed gain that we get from the like Fast Laravel strategies or page caching is that it's cached at the edge of the network layer, right? So in this case, going back to Laravel Shift's homepage or whatever, when we checked this out earlier, we saw that it was like from Atlanta, right? It's not going all the way to like my server somewhere in the New York region of DigitalOcean. So if we refresh this page, or well, I'm logged in. Let's go back. Yeah, I'm logged in. Anyway, Spatie's cache, or any kind of caching package that caches at the application layer, is still hitting your web server. It's still physically routing the request all the way to your web server, so that takes time. It's then processing your request. That takes time. It's booting up Laravel. That takes time. Now, it's going to then boot up the package. If I remember correctly, I think that package uses some middleware, but whatever it uses, the point is it's still loading up PHP, booting up all of Laravel, and then probably making some kind of file IO or database request to pull the cached response. So you're really not getting a very big benefit there. As far the long part of the request is going all the way to your origin and processing the request. Are you cutting out maybe some like database calls and stuff? Sure. So it could help if you have like a really, really, really heavy page. But it's never going to be as fast as what we're doing here, the page caching at the edge with the CDN. It's nothing will ever be faster than that. Nothing. So the stuff in Fast Laravel focuses on page caching, not caching at the application layer of any kind. So not the response cache SPACI package, not caching with the cache facade, not database optimization. All that stuff's great, but it'll never be faster than page caching a response. You just got to figure out if you can truly cache a page, like we said. Like, can this page be quote unquote stale for an hour? I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is yes for probably a majority of sites out there for some of your higher traffic pages. I mean, just like Shift, like this dashboard can't necessarily be cached at the edge, or at least not all of it. But this homepage that changes once a year when, you know, Laravel 13 comes out, like it could be cached for quite a long time. I'm only caching it for a day. I could probably cache it for much, much longer. But doing so, I reduced, you know, my server load to the site by like 90%. And I think we could do the same for Eric for Laravel News. So that's kind of the goal of all these case studies, right? We're going to do Laravel News. There's some other community ones out there. You know, I'd love to do something really nuts like Laircasts or something, right? So anyway, okay, I'll chat with Eric in the background. We'll take a closer look at this visit thing. But again, I think all this could be kicked over into invocable controllers with very, very minimal effort. So I'll get those answers and we'll do that next week. All right, thanks everybody for joining live. I will see you next Wednesday.